Help them figure what they want out of life. But you know everything it come with a price. Wanna maximize your money and time. Might have to take the uncommon advice.
Let's get into the next topic, right? We want to get in a little bit uncommon advice.
Let's do this.
And this one is about setting goals, because setting goals obviously is a very important piece of life, business, all around.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has their own process and strategy for setting goals. So with that, what are some of yours?
So just a little back, I've always been a goal oriented. So when I was young, when I was 19, my goal was I'm going to buy my first house before I turned 21, which I did. I bought my first house May of 2020 during the pandemic. It's actually closing date was May 5th of 2020. Bought our first house with my fiance. Yep, Cinco de Mayo. We signed the papers. I actually have the pictures of her sitting. Literally, it was COVID, so it was us sitting in the car signing the papers like on the dashboard because we couldn't walk in. You couldn't do anything of the cool, like, you know, where people take pictures with the realtor, lawyer. But no, we did it in 2020. We bought our first house, and that was one of my goals. And I beat it by a year. Mine was to have it by 21. I did it. And then it's always been goals. It's like, okay, now how do I get from here, right? Financially, it's like, okay, this is what I make. How do I get here to the next level? So this is what I make now. How do I get here? And it's always been like, I've always set my goals, and it's figuring out how to hit them. And as of right now, I can say it's not cockiness, but I can say very confidently that I basically have hit a lot of my goals that I've set for myself. And one of my biggest goals that I have set for myself is by the age of 25, which I've told you this one, is I want a house on the lake. Mm-hmm. So that's a goal now. I'm at 23. I got 2 years left. So it's a goal that I'm working towards now, right? That's my next big goal. But that's me. I just like writing it down and just figuring ways out, like, okay, where am I at right now? And this goal's a year away. I'm not nowhere near it. Like, I got to step it up now. Like, what am I not doing that I'm not there? Or what do I have to do to get there? And that's always been me. And I have goals again. I have goals to, like, I'm 50. I have a bunch of goals, but you got to work one at a time. Hitting all of them at once, I think it's one of the hardest things to do. And for me, it was easy to focus on one. Let me get here. All right, let me get to my next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for me on the short-term goals, I like to gamify. So I look at it and I figure out, all right, this is something I want. How can I figure it? How can I gamify it to get there? So, for example, one thing is a way to gamify it in office would be, all right, if my goal is one thing is if I want to buy a house,
mm-hmm.
I want to figure out how to create a brand or a company that'll produce the revenue to do that. If I want to buy a car or whatever, like if there's something I want to get that's big, I'm trying to figure out how I can create a brand, a solution, or some sort of I look at more as like, all right, well, I don't want to just go do it with money I've got. I want to figure out how I can create a new solution to produce the money for that. Does that make sense?
Got it. So basically, you're not taking it out of your own pocket.
I'm figuring out how to go make more additional money to be able to create that solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, or to go get what I want on a goal. But
do you write down your goals real quick?
Some I do.
Okay.
Some I've got written down. Some are more general. So, like, for example, I've got a big check in my office. You've probably seen it sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
But you've never asked what it's for, I don't think.
No, I know what it's for.
Okay. So it was a buddy of mine, Mark Evans DM, sent me and everyone in the mastermind a group and a big, huge check. And he said, write down a number that you want in the bank in 5 years. Like, what is that? How much do you want in the bank in 5 years? And so I sat and thought about it. My number when I first started with it was a lower number. Mm-hmm. And then you start thinking, and you start playing this mind game with yourself. You're like, oh, well, I can do that. And
that's cake.
I'll figure that out. And so I ended up writing a number that made me sweat. And if you're ever in the office, you can see that number. But it's a large number that, for me, I feel like it's a large number. So it's
okay.
And what was funny about writing that number is my son made me add a penny to it, which I kind of liked, because when I added a penny to it, it was like, all right, hey, I can't get close to this number. I have to get above this number.
Correct.
And what's kind of funny about that number is, Caden asked me, Dad, how close are you? How close are you? Because he's always trying to ask me, like, where his mom and dad are. He's trying to figure out where his mom and dad are financially, And I'm like, it's none of your business, dude.
That's the way he gets a little
that's-
older. He can use it. Hey, Dad, you got money. Where's that?
Well, he needs to understand his mom and his dad are doing well. He himself,
He's got a long way to
he's
go.
got a long way to go. So I have that check, I have that number. I have no clue how I'm going to get there, but when I wrote it out, but I started developing a plan when I wrote it out.
Mhm.
And a lot of what we do here today is part of that plan to get us to that number. And it is a thing that's a longer term goal. That was a 5-year goal, but it was only a number. The way of getting there was not known. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
sometimes you have to set a goal and you have no clue how you're going to get there. And when you set that goal, you have to set a goal that you have no clue how you're going to get there, because it's going to force you to figure it out and make the moves that you need to reach it. And you're going to have to stretch yourself, expand yourself, and figure it out. But you'll eventually figure out a plan, and then you got to execute on that plan to get there.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny that you say that you don't know how you're going to get there. When we bought the house, I was working at State Farm. I wasn't making anything, not really much money. And I remember the realtor, it's like, yeah, it's 3% down. It's going to be like $9,000. I'm like, woo, I don't got $9,000. So we got to figure this out. And me and Elizabeth were able to figure it out, doing other things. And some of it was, I will put it this way, some of this was going out and having to ask my parents, but that money got paid back. Like my dad, my parents, like you guys, are well off, but he's not a person like, oh, I'm just going to give it to you. No, it's like, you got to work for it, because that's how he got there. So he gave in, and we had to pay it back. He was like, hey, you're paying it back. Like,
Did he charge you interest?
No, he did not. He didn't. So we were good
Man,
on that
you're
end,
lucky.
but we had to figure it out. We were like, how are we going to pull $9,000? Like, we don't got $9,000. So, and it was not just $9,000. It was $9,000, and then when we got the house, there was issues that we had to get fixed, because trying to save every dollar, we didn't even try to go for the inspection. Like, we're like, nah, it's fine, right? Mistakes that were made, but we learned from them. But it was like you said, we had a goal. I had a goal. It was like, but I had no idea how we're gonna get to that goal, but we got there. Yeah. But it was just figuring it out. So that was that's really cool that you brought that up. So that check. You said it was a 5-year goal. So how long ago was that?
So I have 3 years to go.
3 years. Oh, that's cake. We got this. That's cake. We got this. No, but that's cool though, because I bet when you walk into the office, or when you had it at home, you walked in every day and you saw that number and you were like, that's where I got to be. Like it was motivation for you. So that's really cool that Mark, we've talked to him a good amount of times here, that he forced you guys to do something, because he probably forces you guys to do that because he sees that you guys can accomplish that.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I didn't even fill the check out for probably 3 months of having it. And then I was in Florida, and him and I were hanging out. Our families were together at his house, and we're sitting there talking. I was like, so what are you putting on your check? I was like, what did you put on your check? Like, what was your thought process? What were you thinking when you wrote that number? And that's where I started learning from him. Like, I didn't know. I just know that I don't want to underestimate myself. So I went bigger with the number.
Okay.
And that was his kind of lesson that I picked up from there. So it's, just random sidebar here, but that is making sure you're around the right people.
Your circle.
When you're setting your goals, and there's a lot of times where there's people that will see that number, and when I explain to them what that is, when they ask, they're going to be like, like, you can't do that, or why do you need that amount of money? And like all these, these things that emotions that go through people because it's not their goal.
Correct.
And so they try to project that on you. So I guess to round this section out, when it comes to goals, set them, but more importantly, they're your goals.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 2 ways to move. You can move in silence with your goals, or you can move vocally. So I do both of those. Some I tell people, some I don't. But either way, they're my goals. And if somebody tries to tell me that my stuff is not going to work, and I really understand that that's just them projecting their own insecurities, or the fact that it's not their goal and therefore they don't agree with mine, right? Because it's just not, they don't see themselves doing it. They're trying to look through their eyes, not yours.
That's a good point to put it. And Nate, before we close, I do have a question. So me and you, we're different ages. So someone like at my age, they set goals and they're like, oh, I got time to achieve them. Right, and not saying that you're old, but someone your age who they
just did.
well, Well,
Come on,
not
son.
Not say
Come
that
on,
you're
Sonny.
not say that you're old, but someone who's in the higher ages, let's say 35, 40, 50-year ranges, they think that it's too late for them to hit goals. Like, what would you say to someone like, let's say someone that's like 50 years old right now, and they're like, I will never hit my goals. Like, what do you say to that kind of person?
They got to work through that. I mean,
Okay.
no matter what age you are, you're going to reach your goal. You can reach goals. The question is, are you going to fix your mindset to do it?
Okay.
And
So it's
I don't
never
have
too
a
late.
specific scenario, but there's a lot of millionaires and billionaires, like prominent millionaires and billionaires that made all their money when they were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. You know, like that's when they really took off and things hit. So it's if you're sitting there saying you can't reach your own goals, first ask yourself, why are you quitting on you?
Yeah.
Why are you quitting on yourself? And if you're quitting on yourself, how can you expect anyone else to support you, right? Like, 'cause you can reach your goals. At the end of the day, I guess one thing you can start doing if you're in your 50s and you don't feel like you're going to be able to reach your goals, you're hanging around the wrong people, and you need to get in the winner circle. You got to get around winners, because winners want to be around winners, and that's, you just put yourself in that environment. Someone else that's winning, it's going to be infectious for you. It's going to help you start winning, and you're going to start looking at things differently. Instead of going, I can't do it, you're going to start going, I can do it.
Correct.
You're going to make it happen.
And when you get into that winner circle, don't be negative, right? You're getting into that winner circle with people who have hit goals. You have to be open-minded to the feedback they'll give you or the lessons you'll learn from them. Because if you go in there negative, they're going to kick you out as fast as you came in. You're not going to last in that winner circle. So, but basically, you answered my question, right? There's no age or there's no time that you will not hit your goal. You can hit your goal whenever, but that's just up to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, give us a follow on Uncommon Advice on Instagram. Subscribe to the channel. Guys, if you guys can subscribe also to our other media companies, I'd say, networks that we have, SportsBread, Financial Maverick. If you guys, American Centrist, if you guys can subscribe, follow, all that on those, that would be awesome.
Yeah, hit us up if you got any questions.
Hey, listen to this, might have to take the uncommon advice.